Good day, everyone. This is Sir Rule 1986 with the House of Insanity signing in again. I'm here with my good friend Brian from Work the Game and also Ginger Prime. Today I'm doing a follow-up video on, actually was surprisingly was one of my highest tracked videos, which was Did AGS screw up with New World? And it's still actually growing in numbers, which is actually kind of funny. Uh, but I know I asked
Good
you this
topic. It's a good
question before I
topic.
even made the
Absolutely.
video.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on it?
Did they screw up? No. I think essentially they're everything when you look at kind of numbers, the industry itself. Could they have done better? Like, yes, absolutely. But in terms of how New World is structured, they're doing everything in my mind that I want to see in an MMO. That doesn't mean it's going to translate to, like, I guess, just the regular kind of gamer out there that's kind of just somewhat interested or usually just kind of hopping on trends. But I don't think the game was going to capture, them, forever in the first place in and of itself. But no, I mean, screw up. I mean, you'd have to we'd have to narrow it down onto a specific, like, feature. I think overall, like, if you would say hindsight is 2020, if you would go back and say, the servers they should have launched with the transfer ready to roll. Like, that should be already in the books. That should have been live. They should work to continue to increase the capacity while at the same time offering like cross server play. Like, all of those stuff are like, would that have helped ease any kind of the burdens? Yeah, absolutely. But no, I don't think AGS screwed up, like, in the sense of like beyond repair. But we'd have to break it down feature by feature, because I think the game is, when you talk to people who actually like MMOs, they tend to really be excited about what New World's delivered.
Yeah, because it's again in the sense, and I've talked about this in a few times and on the community nights and whatnot. It's the unpredictability of the factor of MMOs of the MMO genre because we have people that come in, so it's new, shiny, and everything else, but then when that hype dies down, people fade away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed.
um, so another little question I have for you because I didn't really watch the developer update anymore. I just got the summary from your videos.
Okay.
Um,
I'm moving my
what do
my
you
window
think? Do you
because
still
I felt
think
like I
with
was
our
looking over here.
original plan and update with it rolling out, saying start on the 10th and then trickle out over the following weeks, or do you think with the factor
I
of the
do.
developer update yesterday, you think it's actually going to be falling in line to where like the July update where it was at the end of the month?
I do feel like we'll see it towards the end of the month, but in terms of like the big content, I think that's a decision they're trying to decide for themselves based off what they talked about, and having, less frequency in updates, but more, quality in terms of that. So I think with this, the right call literally is going to be them focusing in on, having the best showing of that launch. And honestly, if that showing is everything all encompassing, having it launch at the end of October, I think is a good thing. That does make me start to think that maybe the leaderboards piece might be delayed until like November or December. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's something to kind of be excited about. Again, as we look forward to the future and whatever the roadmap ends up detailing. But in this case, I would say the yeah, I'm getting a feeling, of course, more towards the end of October. Would I like them to roll it out in stages? I wouldn't mind at all. Like, I think it'd be kind of cool to see 2 weeks prior. Let's say the 18th is the day, or the 23rd, or whatever, however the calendar shakes out. If they went 2 weeks prior and released the new player experience along with fresh start servers, and you just didn't have Brimstone, so everybody could kind of jump into the fresh start server experience, I think that'd be a really good win too, in my book. The question I wonder is that there's a lot of people coming back, and a lot of people who are already level 60 and might not be interested in the new player starting experience at all. And they
Yeah,
might be really just itching to jump into Brimstone. And it might be kind of like, yo, they kind of tend to roll out the content like this and over the course of weeks when a patch is live. So there'll have to be some education and training and expectations. But that's actually one of the things that what I'm taking away from the dev update is a little bit of like, we really needed to hear something, some date, something more. And unfortunately, it sounds like the answer is like we're gonna have to wait till next week to really kind of see. And maybe that's because they're also still trying to make sure that they have all their ducks in a row. In fact, just today, just a couple like an hour ago, they pushed out a new patch to the PTR.
yeah.
So they're still testing, they're still updating, and that's all good things. These are all good things, but I think essentially what I'm trying to do is also make sure that I'm not spending too much time on the PTR, so that when it does eventually drop in live, that I'm excited about it. And that's a weird world I haven't had before. And as a content creator, is I've always had to wait till the patch goes live to actually even really see the content to make content. Now it's like, oh man, am I disadvantaging myself by not spending all the time? But I think we have a
Yeah.
decent enough sized content creator community that I feel like thank God goodness I don't have to be the be all end all guy who covers absolutely everything, guy, which would be a lot of stress.
Yeah, because actually, I'm in the same boat, and it's just like with being a say main 14 player. We never really get to test out the content before it actually the patch goes live.
Yeah.
So the PTR is kind of a different experience, and I'm just like getting back to my 14 mindset. I don't want to play it all because, oh, uh, it'll spoil it for me.
Yeah. There's a real risk there for sure.
Yeah. Um. Now, with also the factor of staying on the Brimstones topic, and also going back with the factor of them say revamping and releasing even more servers, because I know you've seen the update that they're releasing even more servers coming up
Mm-hmm.
over tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you think they're also by the time Brimstones drop, they'll increase server capacity, even though they've done it for the 2200 to the 25? Do you think they'll bump it up to 20 to like 3K?
I think 3K seems like the most logical evolution, especially as they add in the new landmass. Do I think it will coincide with the launch? I think they might wait to kind of see how everything kind of structures and see if that ends up being a need, right? Because
Yeah.
if they can bump it to 3K and solve a lot of queue problems, well, then I think that becomes an obvious answer. But like it comes down to stability, right? Because what you'll see also at a launch is you'll see a lot more people focusing in on tighter areas, right? So that could end up being where it's like, hey, we know we have this locked in at 2,500, right? Okay, cool. We'll release Brimstone Sands, and then we'll let people kind of go into it, and then we'll address the capacity per server at that time. And maybe they step it up in smaller increments. Again, what you don't want to see is you don't want them to rush, increase the capacity, and have an unstable environment that
Hmm.
impacts gameplay, because then that's also not a good situation as well.
Yeah.
But no, I do think that we'll probably see the game go to 3K concurrent, like in on one server at the same time, and that will then evolve into as they add in new zones. I can see that capacity increasing and increasing as the land masses continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, which seems like it's kind of the plan. I remember they originally talked about having it at 10K on a server. That's like what their target is to get to over time. And I think that's probably what we'll end up seeing in the grand scheme of it, which does help out a lot. But cross server play, I think, is also going to help that out even more,
Yeah,
because
especially
then
with the fresh start servers coming out and everything,
oh
and
yeah,
you're going to build the smaller communities. Yeah, probably going to have because as we've seen from the data mine leaks, and they are going to have an event for the factor along coincide with the fresh start servers.
yeah,
Join your
exactly.
favorite Twitch streamers on the new fresh start servers. What the details are, we don't know yet. So be interesting to see what they do with that to get people to actually go over there.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I know it's in demand, right? And people ask me if I'm going to do fresh start. Absolutely not. Like that's not something I need. But there is an absolute demand for it, and that is going to be exciting. But what happens in 6 weeks or 12 weeks or 36 weeks? Like at some point, like obviously that fresh start server becomes a real server, and so the question ends up being like, how do you make sure that that server is thriving and doesn't end up becoming like it's just a desert? Because then and there's nothing wrong if they want to go this model. Like imagine every year they have this kind of like land rush on a
Mm-hmm.
server, and then they have this kind of like event where it's like, hey, and if you do this you're going to get these rewards on your account. I think that could end up being something that evolves down the line if they do let these servers just live and eventually die, as people are just generally curious. But there seems to be a big interest, especially in players who don't want to step into like an economy that's feeling established. They want to have that and relive that experience on day one, but they want to relive it with all the changes and all the updates and all the quality of life that has happened so far. And I think it's going to be exciting to see. It's going to be a data point for all of us. It's going to be something we can look at and say, hey, was this well worth that time and investment? I think it will prove out to be so. But I do think that if unless they get cross server play implemented, any fresh start server is going to struggle, because at some point it won't be a fresh start, and so at some point you'll have to allow transfers. The question is when? When is that? Is it
Yeah.
weeks or is it months? Or is it just like we're gonna let this thing run out until until no one's playing it, and then we just shut it down? Thanks for playing.
And then we have what we had before, and server merges and everything else, and then
That or they just it'd be kind of interesting if they were like, and that's like these are hardcore characters. That'd be wild to be like, yeah, and then the server died, and so did your character. That was the end of that version of a turn.
yeah, and
But
another thing
I
that
don't
I'm
think they'll do
actually
that.
happy too that I was kind of bitching about in the last video, my original Did AGS screw up New World, was the unknown queue number. They
Oh
fixed
yeah,
it, thankfully.
they did. They
They
did.
learned how to count.
That was important because it's like people are coming back. They're like, "What is it? What is happening? It's going up." It's like the queue number, like you are in queue, it will let you in. Unfortunately, it's you don't know when because it's
Yeah,
not counting down, but it will. It is counting down visually. There's some kind of visual bug, but they did get that fixed, and it's nice whenever I log in, be like, okay. And then generally speaking, my queue times, at least for our server, has been about 5-10 minutes.
yeah,
Nothing
it
too tragic.
hasn't
Nothing
been
too.
too bad. I mean,
Nothing too wild.
one time I was sitting there and it was about 15 minutes, but I mean, that's another thing too, is that with the growth and everything, I mean, I looked at the Steam chart just this morning and we're up plus over 7,000 people in the last 30 days.
Let me pull it up real quick because right now it's 4 in the afternoon. New World's ranked 18 of the top played games on Steam. It's been in the top 20. It eventually got over the 25, but now it's been in the top 20. And the numbers are a little bit lagging. So right now it's got us at 36K, on 24 average concurrency, up 8,000, almost up 50%. And the official final day of this month is tomorrow. So I'm wondering if we'll see a 50% gain increase with these numbers as we go into a new month, into new October, to kind of see
Yeah.
how these essentially are growing. So it's exciting. It's exciting to be a part of this. It's exciting to see people be excited and have fun and return to the game and being enjoying it. Like that's the biggest sign of hope. It's not that there aren't going to be struggles, and there's not that there's still updates that we need that overall will help overall benefit the game. But when it's all said and done, people are playing, they're having fun. And if AGS continues to maintain that, what they said when they want to stop 2 steps forward, 1 step back as a part of the dev update.
Yeah.
That would be great if they were end up getting to a point, even if they're just taking 1.5 steps forward and no steps back. That's going to be something that I think the community can start to really rally behind and be excited about. And I think essentially, as more and more people come back and check out the game and stick around, I think they'll end up finding something really enjoyable about this game that's different from everything else out there on the market.
Yeah. Talking about again, going back a little about the developer update, and I seen that your seen your comment video actually an
Mm-hmm.
hour before. Getting into it with this because I wanted to make sure that I was saying up to date. Do you think they actually uh missed a lot of opportunity to get
Yeah.
more people hyped back?
Yeah, the 1 year anniversary, they went in and what like they did tease some things, right? Daggers, they teased raids, they teased mounts, they teased loadouts, like they teased things, but that's actually kind of what the core part of that video I made today was about. Was like if you're really following the game, I don't think you really got much
Yeah.
from that. And when you look at historically, their dev updates that happen before the big update goes live tend to be really focused in on what's about to happen. So,
Hmm.
from a positive perspective, this is really talking to players who have just returned or are thinking about returning. Like that's who I think they made this for. And then they are kind of talking about things that we've already kind of seen or seen data leaked, which ultimately is kind of a bummer because it would be more exciting to say loadouts, confirmed. It would be excited to kind of be taking that away, but that they can't really control all of that. They have been able to sneak things into the game, that we never knew were coming, and I think that's something really exciting to see. But the ending of it, I think, was the biggest kind of bummer. Like this would have been a really excellent time to talk about more about the future. They did say they're going to talk about the roadmap in October. Okay, fine. You know, um, But man, well, I think what a missed opportunity. It's not
Hmm.
that this is negative. It's just like if you think about opportunity costs, like I think you probably had a ton of eyeballs like on, on this dev presentation, on the content creator community, waiting and itching. I myself thought they were going to drop really big news. I thought this would be the perfect time to say happy birthday. Guess what? Here's the new roadmap. But this also gives them time to focus in on the update in hand,
Yeah.
getting the brimstone and the new player experience out into players' hands, and then maybe couple that with the roadmap. With an update to the roadmap, which basically sounds like what they're doing. Get content in people's hands and then talk about the future, as opposed to keep talking about, don't keep talking about the future when I'm excited about what's about to happen. Let everybody jump in, get their opinions, get their thoughts, play the game, and then essentially like, okay, now that you guys have experienced this, because they do have the numbers. Like most people are still playing on live servers, they're not playing on a PTR, so they can kind of really get a better feel from a live environment, and then sit down and talk to us about a roadmap. But I do feel like the roadmap needs to at least cover like the next year, and I would love to see them get a little bit ethereal in terms of like, okay, this is what we want to do. Here's the 4 seasons of year two. Cool. All right. Not they probably won't have everything because we didn't know they were doing music. But then after the 4 seasons of year two, I'd like them to talk about like, here's our kind of 5 year, here's where we want to go, like over the course of after year two, here's year three, and it could be just very ethereal of like, we want to continue the story, we want to add more zones, we want, like they don't have to name, like sit here and commit to a schedule, but just say like, this is what we're looking at, this is where we're putting these things on, so it can help set expectations. They can get feedback on that, saying like, oh, they really should, that thing that they're talking about in year five really needs to be in year three, like, okay, cool, and then they could kind of get feedback on that. But I'd love to see them commit, because that, even if they did, whether they go a paid expansion model or a No Man's Sky model, I think being able to detail out, you know more time allows me as a content creator, you as a content creator, within our community at Work to Game, that we can sit down, and when people come and say like, well, should I really play this game, is there really a future, and we can literally point to it and say, hey, like, this is, they've delivered everything they've said they're going to deliver. I don't see a reason why that we can't trust that the more stuff, this stuff isn't going to happen.
Yeah. Kind of like going with like what 14's model with Yoshi P and the team. Going out saying, okay, we finished up the story that started back in 1.0. Here's our next 10 years, basically, in a light sense.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
that's a different video, and had plenty probably talks about that.
Yeah.
uh,
Another subject, another day.
yeah, say that for another day. Another thing that actually kind of popped up in between these videos, the exploits that's coming up
Mm.
and everything. What are your thoughts? I know you did a full on video on it,
Well,
but I
it's a
didn't
good
really
it's
get
a
a
good way.
chance to
We
talk
haven't
to you
had
one
we
on
haven't
one.
really discussed it for sure. The that I think definitely took some wind out of the community sales a little bit. Like if we're being honest with it, but only in the sense that it's like days since last accident, right? The goal is obviously zero exploits, zero
Yeah.
problems like that. That's the goal. I felt like we've lived in that world for a while. What I really took away in a positive light was how they responded to it. They had automated alerts. They basically shut down, any kind of, to prevent damage. Then they found the issue, and then they came up with a plan, and within 16 hours it was fixed.
Hmm.
So meaning like most of that time being overnight.
Yeah.
Most of the time we're all asleep. So when I wake, like when I go to bed, I'm like, hey, everything's fine. When I wake up, I'm like, oh, there's an exploit. And then by the end of that, like it's like, oh, and now it's fixed, it's resolved. In fact, they released a patch, we're playing it, they're testing, and then they were able to turn that on, and then they make that announcement, hey, player trade is back. But the markets didn't actually shut down. I think that would have been a bigger problem. It was actually the player to player trade where it was detected. And so for me, that gives me a lot of confidence and hope that they've been able to build out these studies, these test cases, and be able to create alerts, so that when, because people are going to try to break the game. There's a gamer who, that's their fun, that's their game,
Yeah.
and they don't care. And that's unfortunate in a multiplayer experience. In a single player experience, like, go nuts, have fun. But in a multiplayer experience, I'm like, come on, like, we're all just. But in the positive side is that we now, I would say, with somebody who was like, dude, hey, I'm gonna, like, don't they're like, they'll find you, like, they'll
Hmm.
catch you, and you will get punished, like, it's. And that's an important aspect. So I felt like I felt like the response in and of itself was great. I hope that that means that they've caught all of that, and then Brimstone can come out, and then it's a smooth thing, and then we're not seeing any of that. I do
Yeah.
think we might like. I am kind of concerned because it will be headline worthy. That I do wonder if there will be bad actors who will claim certain things, but then essentially, yeah, because then you'll have to kind of play catch up to see if and investigate if it is the fact. But I hope that we don't see more exploits. I don't think anybody's rooting for that aspect.
And you always run into, no matter what the game, you run into those people with the speed runners, the easy way. Try to find the easy way of getting through everything.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I've had I lost train of thought. But that's how it goes with me.
That's how it
Um,
is with everybody, man. It's like, oh man,
yeah,
my goodness.
no, me more so because my mind goes boop 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 boop. With the factor of the actually bringing it on being on the back, that this only being a game that literally has been around just for a year. I was saying it was in the infancy stage and seeing all the bad rep and whatever. Now we're up to a year, so you can basically say it's in the toddler stage. What are your thoughts on the future of it?
Well, honestly, like I couldn't be happier. Like I love this game. I love spending time with the game. I'm looking for I can play the game around my kids. They really enjoy kind of watching it when I'm just kind of casually playing downstairs, either via GeForce Now or Shadow PC,
Yeah,
because I only have one gaming machine and it's the one in the office. So like, but it's something that it's like, yeah, like so they call it this like the ghost game or the Halloween game because typically when I'm playing them in Brightwood for some reason, I don't know why. This just tends to be the how it all structured. So no,
You and Yemen both float towards Brightwood. Me and Everfall and Ebonscale because Ebonscale is the
dude, I
weep
love
city.
those. And Eden's Grove, dude. Oh gosh, like honestly, that's something that might be a fun video to just sit down and do. Is like tier list the zones.
Yeah,
One of my favorite zones. Like and that gives me an idea. So maybe I'll work on that. But no, it's like the zones in this game. I think phenomenal. I think the zones in this game are only getting better because they're also taking time to invest in the zones that we already have. It's not just
yeah,
like it's not top heavy. It's not like only Brightwood is only. I mean, Brimstone is getting the cool stuff, and then only the next zone is getting the cool stuff. What I
yeah.
do
And I'm
wonder
looking
when it
forward
comes,
to what they do in expanding over because they're redoing Monarch's Bluff and
yeah,
also Everfall.
they
Monarch's
big
Bluff, you're
plans for
getting
First
basically
Light.
King Arthur style, and
Yeah,
then Everfall is basically old downtown Boston. I would
yeah.
love to see what they do with Windsward,
Mm-hmm.
First Light, Cutlass Keys,
They
Restless
say big updates are
Shores.
planned for those as well, and so that's going to be exciting. I think it's also what's really cool is that it will give you a sense of where you are in the
Yeah.
world whenever you're in one of those towns. So it's not going to feel like, oh, I'm in this. And I mean, heck, even Weaver's Finn and like even some like you can feel their design capacity and quality increased, especially as you get into Evanscale and even Reekwater. But then, at its core, I think Brimstone really brings it home. And then you start seeing King Arthur's Castle,
Hmm.
and then you're like, oh guys, they are rocking and rolling on all cylinders. This is the time to be a part of it. I mean, you can always wait, but I'm having a great time.
Oh yeah, I'm having a great time too, and I was originally one of the people that, and you can ask Assassin too, and he will contend to it. That I was like, nah, the New World's kind of not for me. It's still kind of too new. There's not that much to do, and yada yada yada, and all that. And
Yeah.
then he buys the game for me. I have it sit there for literally about 3 months, and then I'm like, okay, I need a break from 14. New World, oof. OCD mode kicks in.
Yeah. Well, your like your knowledge of Newark, like it is so cool to see how like you just kind of step in, you're having a good time, and then it's like all of a sudden it's like now you actually have answers to questions that people have, and your expertise of the game is going, and the fact is that you're having fun with it makes it fun. It's always fun to sit down and play with you, dude, because it's like
Yeah,
hell yeah, let's what are we doing? And hopefully, yeah, I know you've already cleared Tempest. I still haven't. I don't know, man. Like I love the organic and getting lost nature in my play experience. And there are things that it's like, yeah, I really should just buckle up and get that done. I want to. It's on the list, but sometimes I just step into the world, dude, and I'm just like, man, I want to go over this hill.
yeah. I was reading some of the say comments in your Discord
Yeah.
and saying that a person wanted to get run through with Tempest and do it at a landing party. That's kind of bringing me into the idea because I was also kind of thinking about it too, especially with me going over into YouTube side and start streaming over there. Uh start doing actual, because I don't really have seen many of
Mm-hmm.
actual guides of how to get through this
Yep.
dungeon.
Yep. There's definitely a hunger for that aspect.
Yeah.
And so if you're not seeing it, like the best way to do is step up and do it. And honestly, then that would tie into one of the things that, in terms of like, if you wanted to sit down and do dungeon guides, one of the things that we would want to do in that regards is also PTR it. So that way we could jump into when they add the dungeons on the PTR. So you could release the guides and be the first, so that when it does drop and people are like, what am I getting into? Hey, check out, Sir Rules, House of Insanity. He's got the best guides out there,
Yeah.
turns out you got the only guides out there. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
but
because
out,
I know I've seen a couple other people
yeah,
post up guys with like how to with the brimstone sands and whatnot and prep and yada yada yada, and I'm like,
it's hard. It's a hard
there,
call.
it's like I'm kind of like, I kind of want to do a video on prepping, especially for the fact of me being a person that's mainly on crafting and gathering than I
Yeah,
am on the PV side. I rush through to get to the PvE stuff
you
slow,
should.
so I can hang back,
Yeah,
relax, and let my OCD kick in on the crafters.
yeah. I would recommend that you do because, like, again, everybody has like a different perspective and a different life situation, right? So like I'm just not I'm doing gathering. I love doing gathering. But my crafting, like the highest I've gotten is cooking, and because I like the cooking in the game. I like crafting and getting the food, and then I just get all that. So I put into cooking, and then I'm like, all right, and then okay, maybe I'll touch this here and there. But it's like, yeah. So there's definitely a need, and it's definitely something where I'm like, I'm not gonna do that personally. It's one of the things I think when I look at how when I do the controller guides for 14 for the jobs, and it ends up putting me in playing jobs that I don't really am not attracted to, like
Yeah.
for lack of a better term. And so ultimately, I know it ends up being more work than joy, as opposed to like I love putting together the black mage, red mage, summoner, tanks, and healers. Like I love doing that. But then getting in the melee and the range, I'm like, there is a challenge there. So, um, yeah, I think essentially, ideally, maybe next expansion for 14, I'm just going to be like, yeah, I'm only going to put out the ones that I care to. I'll let somebody else pick up the slack if there's enough demand.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Is I want to try to just make more 14 content too. It's like
Hmm.
there's a lot of people, but there's not really a lot of people that actually do it in a funny kind of comical sense. So I'm kind of thinking about making like an Angry Warrior series or whatever, going through some of the classes and whatnot. Saying I'm so angry I need to smack this and smack that. But back on a little bit on the topic. You were talking saying about the fact of keeping the minimalistic UI within New
Yeah.
World.
Hmm.
What do you think about actually them letting us customize the UI a little bit?
Oh, I would be perfectly fine with custom. Problem will end up being is that if something becomes like absolutely necessary, then it isn't a custom. Then you have to enable it for certain pieces of content. But no, I would be absolutely fine if they especially let people update their UI and change how it's laid out, etc. That'd be really wonderful for the game and for the players because I think that comes down to accessibility. I think that comes down to player comfort,
Yeah,
and I believe in player choice. I believe in options for players every which way. But then the question is that like I know people want a mini map. They've said no on the mini map for now. I really like that we don't have a mini map. I feel like that makes it immersive. If they do ever add a mini map, my personal preference would be to keep it off. But I know that if I'm trying to I think that just helps lead the brain to efficiency minded. So then you're just playing the mini map. You're not really enjoying the world itself.
yeah,
So I think there are things that you have to start to kind of wonder. You got to say like, is the cost? You might need, and that might not be a visible cost. It's an invisible cost. Is it actually really worth it, or are we just going down the route until it became basically we optimize the fun out of the game?
yeah. With because with me, I love see. This is actually one thing where I go and hop around in other people's streams and whatnot. I like seeing
Yeah.
with their customizable UIs, especially within 14. Because I mean, coming from Warcraft and say also Rift,
Yeah.
their UIs were stationary unless you had mods to do so.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
like
I think if they
14,
were
you can
able
make your own
to,
UI basically.
yeah, 14 has like perhaps I think the best options, but they're still also I feel lacking.
Yeah.
especially when you start seeing all the add-ons that people do have to enhance the UI, and you're like, holy crap, that's beautiful. Let's go.
Yeah, it's like,
Come on.
yeah, yeah, even though we're not supposed to talk about it, evil stuff, Satan, stay away. It's third party mods.
Yeah.
Oh, now you were saying about the fact that the daggers coming out possibly here, probably within the
Mhm.
next few months. What are your thoughts about the weapon that's coming here in a couple weeks?
The greatsword is phenomenal. I think it's overpowered as all get out. Not that I'm complaining. I mean, and you'll just see a lot of great swords. I do wonder if we'll see adjustments on the PTR. So I'm kind of waiting until we get an announcement of when that's coming into live, and then I want to go
Yeah,
put together some, just informational videos about the great sword. Maybe put out together some example builds that people can kind of like pick up and start playing around with, at first. So yeah, that's I it's awesome. Like like the only thing I feel like is a little bit awkward is like when you're not in a stance, you're kind of just like feels like you're just kind of running, and I don't know, maybe it could use a little bit more movement, in that regards or something. But I guess that's probably how I would carry it too. So it just I don't know. It seems like I would rather see them. I like how when you're like in the onslaught stance, like
yeah.
it
The
changes how
forward
you hold
and
the
the
sword.
backwards
Yeah,
for
yeah,
tank. Yeah,
yeah. And so it's like I think that's good. I think that's good information for people to see. But I don't know. It's like the non-stance. It's like maybe they could change it a little bit. Like I don't know. Or you just
yeah. I
I don't
usually
know. It's
always
hard
end
to
up
call.
putting my weapons away, even when I'm doing
Yeah,
other
I just put it
games
away
too.
because
They have weapons
it
out.
bothers me. It's like all right, if
I
I don't
don't
need
like
them,
how they run.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, exactly. That's the only my only weird complaint about it. Like and that's I'm not. It's not a game breaking complaint. It's just like I put the weapon away. I just sheathe the weapon. Problem, my problem is solved
Yeah,
at that point. But it's like, all right, like well, they've already updated the water animation, so it's like at the end of the day, like yeah, well, I'll put that feedback in. Animation looks a little bit weird when you're running with a great sword held. I love that they were talking about daggers. I think daggers, when it comes down to it, is an important weapon to add into the
hmm
game in terms of kind of the fantasy feel. So like I think that there's a gamer out there that would appeal to, but there's also a lot of other weapons that I'd love to see. And honestly, I think that's part of what I would like to see in the roadmap. So if you think about, 1 year of New World, we got 3 weapons. So if you think about year two, maybe open with daggers, maybe follow it up with, another weapon and another weapon, so it's like you end up having this kind of cycle where you're getting new weapons. Cause like I would love lightning magic, I'd love, there's a lot of things like, pistols and
yeah.
their weapons
You
are
got
kind of in the
you
game.
got in the actual game now, and what the fact we're saying about now saying actually about daggers are coming out. Um, you also got mobs in there. The Lost. You have
Yeah.
the Alchemist one that has a mini crossbow and casts magic alongside of it. Then you also have the ones that have like lightning rods. I didn't really see
Hmm.
what the weapon was. Then you also
Yeah.
have another one that's dual pistol that cause buffs and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
So that'd be interesting to see them and implement those. I mean, hell, and also with the expansion of new well, not the expansions, updates with new zones because there's no real plan yet for expansion model. People always saying different things about it's an expansion and technically still an update, just a big update,
Mm.
the language and whatnot. But oh, so you go back over my notes real quick here. But yeah, that's basically all I really wanted to talk about. Now, you got any final thoughts and whatnot?
Well, I'd love to know, like what weapon you want to see in this game.
Uh, my weapon of choice for me, truth be told, uh, ability to say just like going off what you said, disconnect the sword, disconnect the shield and the sword,
Hmm.
where
Yeah.
shield be on its own,
Yeah.
and
100%.
basically give out a full on dual wielding type skill where you can literally, if one handed weapons, you can dual wield those, or you can be sword and board, or even with the shield, you can pair it with the mace, or
Hmm.
even
Hatchet, rapier.
hatchet, stuff like that.
Yeah, like with a single hand. Like, yeah, I would love that. I know that when they were talking about it at the launch, it's like people because that was a lot of feedback that we've all had and been given. I think that's going to be a bigger thing, and that might come with an expansion. But that would be so sweet. Imagine, yeah, you pick a shield. A shield has 2 trees, and then
Yeah.
essentially you pair that, and so you take, some shield stuff and some whatever else, and obviously they have to do the UI to figure that out because your points overall are shared across those two trees. But man, yeah, and then you could open up sword. Yeah, dual swording. Let's go.
Yeah.
Sword rapier. Let's do it.
Dual
Yeah,
rapiers, dual hatchets, and really make the
or
hatchet
sword and
tree
hatchet.
overpowered.
Well, it just then your sandbox is just expanding. Sword
Yeah.
and pistol, hatchet and pistol. Like all of a sudden you have these options, and that's why personally speaking, I hope that if they do daggers, that it's like you actually have a dagger for your left hand and a dagger for your right hand. Like they
Yeah.
would kind of separate that. But that could mean obviously like going with this chain. Who knows? Like that's obviously like people are welcome to obviously disagree, but it's like I think that's something that's just generally interesting in the grand scheme of things. Like,
Hmm.
so yeah, I agree with you 100%. That would open up so many new options, especially for tanking,
Yeah.
especially for survivability, man. Like, and so I guess for me, I'd like another kind of healing spec or healing option.
Healing
Loadouts
option.
will be a
Yeah.
huge change.
Maybe
And then like
like
at the end of the
maybe
day, like
mix
if they got
in
some
a
kind of
little bit
scholar, like some kind of like little pet fairy, like a pet class that had a little heal option, or
a buck.
like
Give us a
a little
buck.
bug, a
A
book.
buck.
Okay.
A buck. Where we have where we have two trees. You have the healing side, then you have the DPS side.
Hmm.
Get scholar and summoner basically all in one.
Ooh, dude, yes. Yeah, I don't. Who knows? Who knows? That's where it's like with the game, so much potential, man. When they
Yeah.
were teasing Barkamedes, like I was like, are they teasing like a weapon that has a wolf?
Hmm.
That'd be awesome. I'm all in. Like I'd love to do that, but one of
Yeah,
these days we'll see.
going
I'm
with the
kind of
lightning magic.
yeah.
Maybe summon out and you summon out a little pet for a couple seconds.
Hmm.
You'd shape the lightning into an actual attack, and it looks like a wolf or looks like a
Ooh, a lightning
bear.
wolf. Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, I love this. Let's put you to work for Amazon. Let's go.
Hey,
Yeah, yeah.
let's both go for Amazon, and you can go native controller support.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like I think before native controller support, while I still am always going to advocate for that, post XP, like the thing, especially when it comes down to end game, like or the end of the game content, level 60 content. I'm like, I don't like it when XP hits the floor. I don't like
Yeah,
it for the weapons either. So as soon as I have all the weapons capped, like there'll be just this a little bit of a disappointment because no matter what, like I'm like, come on, let's go, do something with this stuff. It's still there. We know
yeah.
it's there. It just doesn't.
You mentioned in your video, and we also first talked about it last week, community night, an
Yeah,
aptitude system for the weapons and
aptitude.
experience
Let's
overall.
go. Let's go, dude. Like honestly, maybe they're doing me a favor by not having something like that because I don't think I'd be able to log out. Like, sorry guys. I love XP. I think it's the perfect system in terms of like, especially at a level cap game. I think it's the perfect system that does not need to be efficient. It
Yeah.
just is there. It's a guarantee that you're working towards a bigger goal while you're doing your other things. And so then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, like I got this other thing. And by doing these other things, I love it's just to me, I love filling up multiple bars. And that's why aptitude is so important. When they added that, it's like, gosh, that's so great because I love that.
Hmm.
I'm not I don't push on it, but I love that there's a value there. And if I could still get XP, I think that'd be even better.
Yeah. But I do want to thank you for your time. I know you're busy schedule with the kiddos and whatnot, and hell, I got mine, and he's yelling at me about food. He actually yelled at me about food before we
Yeah, I
started the
was I
video
was I was I was
up.
changing
So
diapers. I was changing diapers, and I was also like, the kids were like, "Can we get some ramen?" I was like, "Sure, yeah, okay, ramen, let's go." They're probably not going to eat dinner, but they rarely ever eat dinner anyway. It's like, yeah, I don't know if y'all they're younger, so it's like we sit them down, we put the food in front of them, and chances are they're probably sneaking snacks. I don't know, man. Like
yeah,
I, it's like, come on, guys,
with my
gotta eat a little bit.
With Draven back here, if I just put with the exception of mac and cheese,
Yeah.
and if I put anything from his face, 90% of the time he'll go and then be quiet for a couple hours. That's it.
There you go. There you go. Well, dude, thanks for agreeing to cover that. I mean, it's like this was really cool. I'm really excited to see your. I've been enjoying your content, and you just got to keep doing it. I would recommend any guides you have. You have this intrinsic knowledge. I think you
Yeah.
just have this. Like one of the things I would just praise you on is like watching you. It's like you absorb this information, and then you're able to like understand it. And if you can turn that into a video, then I think essentially people will find your content, and that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing for New World. I think that's a good thing for you. I think it's a good thing for anything you decide to do down the road. So any opportunity that you can create, whether it's a short guide or a long guide, just like, hey, I know how to do this thing. I see people keep asking how to do this thing. Let me show you how to do this thing. And then you
Yeah.
show them, and then you say, thank you so much. I wish you all the best. And then people can hopefully find your content because like you're awesome. Like I love hanging out with you. So I hope more people discover your content.
Yeah, yeah, because that's one thing is also that
Yeah.
too. And I want to mention while I was still recording on this, I mean, I want to say thank you to everyone that has actually started following and whatnot over here
Sub to
on the
this
YouTube
guy.
side, because it's up to 49. So,
Hey.
and 49 out of the 100. I want to get rid of that ugly ass long ULR and get it to something nice and clean. And talking to a few
Yeah, dude.
people, they're saying put literally House of Insanity there because that's my
There you go.
streamer tag. So,
Let's do it, dude. So keep doing it, man.
yeah.
Yeah, and then guys, sub to this guy, like this video, share this man's content, and check out his streams. You know, so that's
Yeah,
the best thing you can do.
I stream on Twitch, and then also and then I starting to do the switch over from Twitch to YouTube,
Mhm.
and I'm actually kind of liking it a little bit better. I mean, I
I
had
find it
up
really more
to
relaxing.
concurrent
Yeah,
4 viewers last night just on my first
yeah.
stream. Chill.
Well, and that VOD's gonna stay up, and then like what we've always talked about privately is like just make sure you take that content and turns it into something. Like
Yeah.
if you can focus every stream into either I'm gonna do something, and then I'm gonna teach you how to do that thing I did on the stream, and then all of a sudden it's like now here's this 5, 10, 15 minute video. Then you're maximizing that stream time and inviting people to come and be like, all right, next we're gonna figure out this, and then you go do that thing, and then you condense it because like I always kind of say, like I don't say if I'm not sub to you like on YouTube, like the first thing I don't go watch is a 3 hour VOD, you know. So
Yeah.
first thing I don't do is jump into a live stream. Maybe other people do, but I don't. Like I'll find a video and then it'd be like boom, okay now, and that's I think that's just how more people actually interact with content and
Hmm.
content creators. So
And plus,
this has
also,
been awesome. Yeah.
it's the state of the world in social media now. I mean, a lot of people are in the TikTok mentality, 30 seconds to 45 seconds, and then their attention span goes elsewhere, like of a cat. So, but yeah, thank you everyone for whoever made it to the point of the video. Thank you very much for coming in, watching, hanging out with me and Brian from Ginger Prime and Work the Game. I will put links to his stuff down in my channel, down below in the comments. So I will be streaming tomorrow night. Sadly, he won't be doing for community night, but I'll
Not
still
tomorrow
try to
night.
fill his
Yeah.
shoes up.
Please do. I'll be actually going to be doing some stuff in the morning, which is nice because my schedule's cleared up a little bit. So I'll be live over on Twitch tomorrow morning, and then I'm actually going to be reacting to the Ashes of Creation dev update for September. I'll be doing that on Prime as well. So lots of stuff for me tomorrow, and then I'll be doing some family stuff tomorrow night. So people will not see me Friday night.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much again, Brian. And I'll talk to you in Discord and whatnot, and let's see how this video turns out. Because who knows,
All
we
right.
might get another follow up.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, man.
All right.
Thanks for having me.